Rose Elizabeth Fitzgerald Kennedy was an American philanthropist and socialite. She was deeply embedded in the lace-curtain Irish Catholic community in Boston, where her father was mayor. She was the wife of businessman and investor Joseph P. Kennedy, Sr., who was United States Ambassador to the Court of St. James's. Their 9 children included President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and longtime Senator Ted Kennedy. Early life: Rose was born in the North End neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. She was the eldest of 6 children born to Boston Mayor John Francis Honey Fitzgerald and Mary Josephine Josie Hannon. Her siblings were Mary, Thomas, John Jr., Eunice, and Frederick. As a young child, she lived in an Italianate mansard-style home in the Ashmont Hills section of Dorchester, Massachusetts and attended the local girls' Latin school. The home later burned down, but a plaque at Wells Avenue and Harley Street proclaims Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Square. The plaque was dedicated by her son, Senator Ted Kennedy, on Kennedy's 102nd birthday in 1992. Kennedy studied at the convent school Castile Bloy Mendel in Vals, the Netherlands, and graduated from Dorchester High School in 1906. She also attended the New England Conservatory in Boston where she studied piano. After being refused permission by her father to attend Wellesley College, Fitzgerald enrolled at the Manhattanville College of the Sacred Heart, an institution which did not grant degrees at the time. In 1908, Fitzgerald and her father embarked on a tour of Europe. She and Honey Fitz had a private audience with Pope St. Pius X at the Vatican. Marriage and family life: on October 7, 1914, she married Joseph Patrick Joe Kennedy at age 24 after a courtship of more than 7 years. He was the elder son of businessman-politician P.J. Kennedy and Mary Augusta Hickey. She gave birth to the couple's first child, Joseph, Jr., 9 months later. They initially lived in a home in Brookline, Massachusetts that is now the John Fitzgerald Kennedy National Historic Site, and later a 15-room vacation home at Hyannisport on Cape Cod, which became the Kennedy Family unregistered trademark's lasting base. They had 9 children. Joseph provided well for their family, but was unfaithful. His affairs included one with Gloria Swanson. While 8 months pregnant with the couple's 4th child Kathleen, Rose temporarily went back to her parents, but returned to Joseph. In turning a blind eye to her husband's affairs, Rose depended heavily on medication. Ronald Kessler found records for prescription tranquilizers Seconal, Placidil, Librium, and Dalmane to relieve Rose's nervousness and stress, and Lamotil, Bentyl, Librax, and Tagamet for her stomach. Rose Kennedy was a strict Catholic throughout her life. Even after her 100th birthday, she rarely missed Sunday Mass and maintained an extremely prudish exterior. Her strict beliefs often placed her at odds with her children. Jacqueline Kennedy described her mother-in-law in her correspondence to Father Joseph Leonard, an Irish priest, "I don't think Jack's mother is too bright a Euro, and she would rather say a rosary than read a book." Rose Kennedy stated that she felt completely fulfilled as a full-time homemaker. In her 1974 autobiography, Times to Remember, she wrote, "I looked on child-rearing not only as a work of love and a duty, but as a profession that was fully as interesting and challenging as any honorable profession in the world and one that demanded the best I could bring to it. What greater aspiration and challenge are there for a mother than the hope of raising a great son or daughter?" Children. Later years, after her son John became president in 1961, Rose became a sort of quiet celebrity, appearing on the international best-dressed list. Most of her social activities consisted of involvement in charities and women unregistered trademark groups. Rose also took brisk ocean swims outside her Cape Cod house in 50-degree weather. After suffering a stroke in 1984, she used a wheelchair for the remaining 11 years of her life. She maintained her residence at the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts and was cared for by private nurses and staff. Death. On January 22, 1995, Kennedy died from complications from pneumonia at the age of 104 1/2, having outlived her husband by a quarter of a century. She was survived by 5 children, 26 grandchildren, and 42 great-grandchildren. Rose Kennedy was interred with her husband at Hollywood Cemetery in Brookline, Massachusetts. Legacy. In 1951, Pope Pius XII granted Kennedy the title of Countess in recognition of her exemplary motherhood and many charitable works. In 1992, when she turned 102, the intersection of Wells Avenue and Harley Street in Boston was proclaimed Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Square. The plaque was dedicated by her son, Senator Edward M. Kennedy. Also, the Rose Kennedy Greenway in Boston, Massachusetts, the park that was created when the city's central artery was sunk below ground level in the Big Dig, was named after her on July 26, 2004. Well known for her philanthropic efforts and for leading the Grandparents' Parade at age 90 at the Special Olympics, Kennedy's life and work are documented in the Oscar-nominated short documentary Rose Kennedy, A Life to Remember. In popular culture, the Rose Kennedy cocktail is a popular drink in bars in the northeastern and mid-Atlantic United States. Kennedy was played by Annette O'Toole in the TV miniseries The Kennedys of Massachusetts. Kennedy was played by Michelle Trout in the film Lives and Deaths of the Poets. Kennedy was played by Diana Hart-Kissel in the television miniseries The Kennedys. The American band Rasputin's song Rose K. from their album How We Quit the Forest is based on her life. French chanteuse Patricia Cass recorded a song, Kennedy Rose, on her 1990 album Ska Ni de Vie, which is very critical of the Kennedy family's ambitions for their sons. Rose Kennedy is the First Lady of the United States in alternate history novel Fatherland. Books by Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy, Rose Fitzgerald. Times to Remember. Doubleday and Company, Kennedy, Rose Fitzgerald. Times to Remember. Doubleday and Company. ISBN A978-0-38547-657-7. References, Notes. Further reading, Nassau, David. The Patriarch, The Remarkable Life and Turbulent Times of Joseph P. Kennedy, Scholarly Biography of Her Husband, Perry, Barbara A. Rose Kennedy, The Life and Times of a Political Matriarch, external links. Rose Kennedy at the Internet Movie Database, Boston Women's Historic Trail.